Every day, you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do.
When I think back to being an athlete, that's where my love of sport first started. And for me, it was actually a lot about the specific skills, because I have these really vivid, clear memories. It's like a visceral memory that I can feel still in my body. And it relates to the thrill of a stuck landing or catching that release move. And I guess the joy that came from finding out that I was capable of those things. And I call myself a lifelong learner. I'm like irritatingly curious. I ask a ton of questions.
Same giving us back here.
Yeah. I love to ask questions. I love to learn. So I think the whole idea of excelling in a sport fed that desire to learn. And I can still remember, this sounds maybe corny, but I love the feeling that I was producing something that was beautiful or unique, like just that ability to hold yourself in a way that expressed confidence, whether I felt it or not, because let's be honest, gymnasts are wonderful performers, but there were aspects of movement that I felt made me beautiful and made what I was sharing with the audience or whoever was watching something that was interesting, perhaps aesthetically pleasing, and perhaps, athletic in a way that showed women were more than just the cute leotard we were wearing and the tidy hair. No, I was really strong, powerful, and athletic, and that deserved its own respect.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of language, and I think the more we use language in a space, the more it becomes normalized, and it can be normalized towards the really negative and unhealthy, toxic creation of an environment, or the opposite if we are using positive language. So, I think in the next couple minutes, we'll be doing a few nods to Brene Brown. I've read a lot of her work, and she doesn't use the sport context at all, and yet it fits beautifully. So when we talk about cultivating love of sport, I think that looks like even using that language within your gym. Okay, how are we going to cultivate love of sport today? How am I as a coach going to cultivate love of sport in this athlete? And how is it going to look different to cultivate that love in this other athlete? I think when coaches are focusing on cultivating that love of sport, it looks like fun. It looks like the intention to incorporate fun and games into the training practice, no matter how old. Like a handstand competition is fun for gymnasts. It doesn't take much, and it doesn't have to waste a lot of important training time. So incorporating fun, games, growth, positivity, walking into the gym with a real openness to see each of your athletes as individual thinking and feeling beings. Again, back to the humanity of the sport, the humanity of the athletes and the coaches. Let's not forget that. We need to shift away from that, from honoring this robotic gymnast that we, I think, have honored for decades. And we need to get back to thinking and feeling. I never could quite get past that one coach I mentioned. She was also the choreographer of our floor routines. And she always wanted me to do these sort of crazy, she had this bird pose she wanted me to do in my floor routine. And I was so embarrassed by it that I ended up saying I couldn't do it and I wouldn't do it. And she went about it. But, her pushing me down as a young person and squashing so many times my confidence, that when she then wanted me to go out and perform big and unique and stuff, all I wanted to do was cutesy moves that would keep me safe and within that sort of girlish gymnastics paradigm. So for coaches who want to bring out the best in their kids as athletes and as performers, you also have to ensure that you're developing their spirit to feel big, to feel confident, because then they will go out there and be able to perform authentically, not just performative, but to express that art and that beauty from a really authentic place. You need to focus on how to set that stage. So what does that mean? Well, you have to be curious. You have to get curious about what each individual athlete is looking for and ensure that they're in an environment that brings that out. So that leads us into that conversation about practicing self-awareness. As a coach, what do you need to be at your best so that you can go into the gym feeling open and willing and able to connect with your athletes?
Yeah. And this was sorry, go ahead. And I cut you off.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say it comes down to some fundamentals. And, if anyone's taking notes, it's what do you need from your athletes? Get in touch with yourself. What do you need from your athletes? Do you need a bit more gratitude? Do you need them to show up on time? And then communicate it to them so that it's clear. So it's clear. And then what do you think your athletes need from you as a coach? Well, probably you should ask them. I think we don't take the time to ask children what is meaningful to them. I'm a parent. I still don't always get that right. So I certainly am not sitting here from a preaching perspective and saying coaches need to do all this. You have to build it into your program. So perhaps it's, when you've got your list of assignments for your kids that day, what you expect and hope from them, at the top of that maybe is some questions that are reminders to you to ask each of your athletes. What do they need from you today? To bring out their best. Give them space to share that, and that's going to take time. If a coach hasn't developed trust or communication with athletes, you can't go in there and expect athletes to actually answer you honestly. Kids will cover up all kinds of real emotion if they've been training in a space that hasn't allowed for authenticity. And so we have to give them the time to feel that you as a coach are trustworthy and won't use the information they share with you against them at any time.
Gymnastics, more than any other sport, I think, and I still haven't quite put my thumb on this, but I think it's because of the relationship with fear of skills. Skills are hard. Skills are scary. The pressure of competing and you're the only one out there. It's a very unique sport where it fosters incredible people. And obviously I understand gymnastics skills are the goal, but it's a vessel to teach people some bananas things that they're going to use with them later in life. Right? I think about friends of mine, my best friend, Josh Fox, who was one of the better gymnasts that I ever worked with. He was incredible, but at the same time, man, he developed over the course of 10 years, just absolutely like ice in his veins, pressure and just the ability to handle pressure because he was really talented. So he was always last in our lineup and he always would just sometimes he would do great. Sometimes he would stick and it would be amazing, but he developed like this incredible tolerance to discomfort and pressure that he works in an ICU now as a critical care physician's assistant. And he has the experience of gymnastics, of learning how to handle fear and learning how to handle gymnastics and having social support. What he's doing is credible. It's absolutely incredible. So that's an example of what I see is the potential of what happens when we are willing to do the hard work that we'll talk about soon. And we are willing to look in the mirror. We are willing to, make lifestyle changes and make cognitive changes, because not only will we be happier as people, adults working in the sport who are finding something very, very meaningful to do with our time, but also I firmly believe that by building environments that have great kids and great cultures, that you're fostering people who are going to go on to contribute to curing cancer, or who will help solve world hunger, or who will just raise an amazing gym of their own someday, and they will carry on the legacy of what gymnastics can do for people. And I think that's lost on people sometimes. They realize the magnitude and the positive impact that a sport like gymnastics can have, which is why so many people are, obsessed with it, because it does such incredible things when done well. Again, when I was younger, I had some of this, that I needed the stuff to think that I was cool, right? I don't wear a watch. I haven't bought clothes in like 5 years because I've changed. I've realized how painful that was to live that lifestyle financially and mentally, that now it's more about having gratitude for the things you have and being content with what you have is enough, but also making sure it's this like me versus me mentality, right? Like I'm doing this, like, so say I want to do this or buy this or whatever. It's because it brings me joy and I enjoy it as a hobby, not because I need it to flex on people and show off how awesome I am. So that's the second one that I see quite a bit. And the third one, again, I'm the most guilty of this, is when you use coaching or your workplace to overwork so much that you numb yourself from thinking about things that are uncomfortable or painful in your personal life. So I did this with Shift early on, which is because I wasn't dealing with my own personal life issues. I would just overwork. I would read, I would make courses, I would teach, so that I was so busy and so consumed with that and with coaching that I didn't have to deal with the inner demons, right? I didn't have to deal with them because I could just block them out. So I would jump from reading a lot to working in the clinic to going to coach. Then I would come home and I would watch TV, and I would do that Monday through Friday. Then on Friday, I would go out with friends. I would do this. I would find ways to constantly distract myself from some of the deeper discomforts. And again, if you use anything, insert anything here, TV, social media, alcohol, overworking, over-exercising, if you're using anything to a point where you're trying to escape your own pain, it's a vice, right? But if you have the opposite side of that, the virtue led is facing the chaos and facing the discomfort and building emotional discomfort tolerance and finding healthy coping mechanisms to deal with that. That's what I went through, like I said, with therapy and with also social support to deal with my own things. And that allowed me to then be a better, more emotionally stable coach, but also someone who wasn't riding the roller coaster of doing well or not doing well at meets, or, more people at level 9, 10 and not people level at 9, 10 and all that kind of stuff. So when I was able to do that and detach myself from the need for other people's performances to indicate whether I felt like I had self-esteem as a coach, everything in my life got better. So I personally feel that's where a lot of these malicious coaching, intents come from. I don't think people are evil. I don't believe that these coaches are born evil. I think they get into a situation where they maybe haven't done the harder work every day, and it boils over into these really, really terrible things.
So what is the cost of not doing a little of the work now or a lot of the work now? What's the cost? Well, the cost is that if you're in a leadership position, especially as a coach, the cost of those children's development. And now we're setting those kids up to go through all the trauma and pain that the coach went through. And, and we have normalized it in sport that it gets us to the winning position. It gets us to the top of the podium. But I think winning without considering the cost of getting there is negligence. We cannot continue like that. As I said before, now we know better. And so we can't replicate that. And, just to bring one more point in from that, Dr. Wallinga, she calls that winning with benefits. So it's trying for excellence in more than just the performance outcome. So how to have it all without the devastating costs or the win at all cost model, because it's actually not conducive to winning when you consider winning in the spirit of winning at life. That there is, it doesn't have to be an either or. You don't have to win or lose. It can be, I think we need to start to look at winning from the perspective of what else did I win out of that effort? What else came from that experience besides where I finished on the podium? Are we recognizing kids who are being great teammates? Are we recognizing kids who apologize for hurting someone's feelings? Are we recognizing our athletes when they are super good at regulating their emotions or lowering their own anxiety? Or maybe they took really special care to prepare for that meet by not having the sleepover the weekend before, or, getting proper nutrition leading up to the meet. Like, what did that competition teach them about themselves and their capabilities beyond whether or not they got a medal?